Did you know that the word excruciating originates from Latin, and the etymology is actually referring to the extreme pain involved with being nailed to a cross? What Jesus went through, what Jesus endured, was more horrific and more painful than any of us could ever imagine. His suffering started in the garden, where he was under so much emotional pain and stress that his body sweat drops of blood. And it was only the physician in the group, Luke, that took notice to this, because this condition was so rare and so extreme. Capillaries in his sweat glands were rupturing because of the level of stress and pain, emotional pain, that he was under. That night Jesus was arrested, and when they arrested him, they blindfolded him, and they beat him the next morning, bloodied, bruised, sore, and probably with zero sleep. Jesus was set up to be whipped. He was stripped of his clothes, and his hands were tied to a post above his head, so the skin on his back could be stretched out over his rib cage. The whip that was used consisted of heavy leather strips with little balls of lead at the end, and he would have been whipped with full force. First few lashes would have only been skin deep, but as the blows continued, they would have dug deeper and deeper into muscle and thicker layers of tissue, which would have resulted in hanging strips of skin. His entire back would eventually be an unrecognizable mass of just bleeding tissue, and when Jesus was just near death, that's when they would have stopped. Barely conscious, Jesus was then untied and most likely collapsed onto the stone pavement into the pool of his own blood. And Tissue, the Roman soldiers, then proceed to mock laugh at him and ridicule him by giving him a robe and a crown of thorns. Now these thorns were a couple of inches long, so when they pressed that crown of thorns into his head, that would have inflicted unimaginable pain all over his head, down his entire face, and even down his neck when they were done mocking him and laughing at him. In this state, they then proceeded to beat him in the head while he was wearing the crown of thorns. It is at this point, bloodied, marred, and barely alive, that Jesus is given a 300B raw wood cross that he has to carry on his back, the same back that has muscle tissue and possible bone exposed. Jesus had to carry this 300-pound raw wood cross on his marred back while struggling to walk, think, or even breathe for the length of 6 football fields. When they reached the crucifixion site, Jesus was placed onto this cross, and heavy square rod, iron nails, are driven into each of his wrists. His feet are then pressed together, and a nail was driven through the arches of his feet. As Jesus was lifted up, he would have had to balance between holding himself up through his wrists or putting weight on the nails through his feet. Now, as his muscles started to fatigue, cramps would have settled in, which would have prevented him from being able to properly hold himself up, which would have started to have an effect on his ability to breathe now, while Jesus hangs in unimaginable pain and struggling to even catch a single breath, while the Roman soldiers below were spitting on him, laughing at him, and mocking him. This is when he prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Now hours go by with just limitless pain, partial asphyxiation, and his back tissue continues to be torn as he's struggling to hold himself up as he moves up and down the raw wood of the cross. Jesus then cried, "I thirst." And they couldn't just give him water, they had to give him a sponge that was dipped in vinegar that at that time would have been used to clean their backside. Jesus hung on that cross for a total of 6 hours. And when he knew that his body was giving up and he couldn't handle anymore, it is at this point that he said, "It is finished." With one last surge of strength, for one last time, he presses his torn feet against the nail to straighten his legs in order to take one last breath and say, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." Every moment that Jesus was in pain, he was thinking about you. He endured all of that. He suffered through all of that for you. This is what our sin cost. And I don't know about anybody else, but this Holy Week is hitting me a little differently. It's more emotional. And what he did is registering on a deeper level the murder of Jesus Christ was for us, so that we can have eternal life, so that we can spend eternity in the presence of God. I pray this weekend and every single day we don't forget what this is all about. This weekend isn't about Easter bunnies and eggs, and our lives aren't about what clothes we wear or what car we drive. It is about what Jesus suffered and endured for us. He gave his life to save ours.